Hey there, welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be showing you how I made a diorama of the hunting grounds from the Elder Scrolls series. Within the world of the Elder Scrolls, I've always found the Daedric Princes to be far more interesting than the Nine Divines. Perhaps it's my inner edgelord, but whenever I played one of the Elder Scrolls games, I always made a point to seek out these Daedric shrines. Unlike the Nine Divines, the Princes actually gave you rewards by completing their quests. And those rewards often changed depending on what choices you made, or at least this was the case in Skyrim. Each prince has their own personal plane of Oblivion, which is a realm that they all control and rule over. I plan on making a diorama for each plane of Oblivion. As there are 16 princes, this will be the start of a new series on my channel. And what better way to start off a new series than with my personal favourite of the princes? The realm of Hircine, the Daedric Prince of the Hunt. Hircine's realm, the hunting grounds, has been described as a dense woodland, populated by all manner of beasts. Achieving the look of a dense woodland on such a small base will be a bit of a challenge, but that won't stop me. I'm using the Elder Scrolls unofficial page as a reference here, and in fact I'll be using it throughout this entire series. To make the trees, I take some sticks from a previous project and cover the ends in hot glue. I then use wire to create some armatures for the future limbs and the roots. After a quick bend and a trim, I then proceed to cover up all of the original stick with hot glue. It's hard to see in the video, but I use the hot glue gun to help create the texture of bark. I ended up with 3 trees because, ironically enough, any more would be too much. I decided to add a sacrificial stone to this build to help serve as a focal point. To do this, I carved up a chunk of XPS foam and then bashed it with a rock to turn it into more of a rock. With a heavy coat of texturing paste and a skull at the top, the stone is complete. I glue the trees and the rocks down to the base, and then cover the base in a very thin layer of goop. I wasn't too worried about the base showing through, as a lot of it's going to get covered with grass later. Bethesda is famous for its environmental storytelling, so I figured I'd play into that a little bit here. So I decided to litter the ground with various skulls. I figured it would help add a little bit of interest to the diorama. Everything was then primed and then set aside for the moment. I have a whole box of assembled but poorly primed minis in my desk, so I figured it was time to start using them. The body of the lion gets a light yellow, and after making sure that the camera was out of focus, the face gets the same yellow. The lion gets black roots because he hasn't dyed his hair in a while, and then his entire body gets a brown wash. The lion's mane then gets a brown, while his claws and teeth get a dirty yellow. His horns get a slightly lighter shade of brown, and then using some very thinned out blue, I paint in his eyes. I paint in the last few details off screen, and then proceed to bathe the horns, mane, and bandages in brown. Since this is a Warhammer figure, the Mark of Chaos is a little more pronounced than I thought it would be, but that's easily fixed by just not showing it in the beauty shots. I then remove the mini from its base, somehow managing to not cut myself. Back to the base, I start by painting the ground brown, and painting the rock grey. The bones get a dirty yellow, and any horns get a light brown. The trees get a dark grey, and then the bones and the rock get a wash in black and brown respectively. I then dry brush everything with lighter versions of their respective colours. I add some blood splatter to the stone using a glossy red wash, and then glue the minifigure in place, making sure to hold it still for half an hour. Just kidding. Time for some much needed greenery. The ground gets a watered down layer of glue, and then a very heavy sprinkling of grass. I glue down some longer grasses to help break up the ground a little bit, and then using some foam clump foliage I start filling in the trees. This took quite a while, and I used far more foliage than I had planned to, but it was worth it in the end. Some smaller clumps of foliage were used as bushes on the ground, and any of the tiny bits that fell off the trees were left as is on the model, all in the name of making it look more wild. The entire model is then doused in isopropyl alcohol and then watered down glue to seal everything in, and that was it. Thank you for watching. I'm looking forward to continuing this series, as since I'll be going off of concepts as opposed to strict references, it will be an excellent chance to get creative with these dioramas. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, have a good one.